Joining us on the line live right now is the head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Coach Kirk Ferentz is with us. Coach, thanks for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Nice to be with you guys.
Coach, tell us about A.J. Epenesa. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about A.J. Epenesa?
First of all, congratulations to the Bills. They've done a great job building their team up there. And I know it started on defense, and they're getting a great player. First thing that comes to mind is just production. A.J.'s a very productive player, extremely dangerous, and on top of that, he's just an outstanding young person.
What when you recruited him and he came out of high school, how much did he change during the time he got to Iowa? Has he been as big as he is for his entire career as a Hawkeye?
Pretty much. You know, I always joke about it. He's the kind of player we never get. Both he and Tristan Wirfs. And we got Tristan Wirfs because he grew up 25 miles up the road. And A.J.'s dad played at Iowa. He was a walk-on here that earned a scholarship. So otherwise, those guys go to Alabama. They go to Ohio State. They don't come to Iowa. And when he walked in, he was just a tremendous prospect, great athlete in high school, not only in football but also track and basketball. So, you know, he came in with a great skill set. He's a very effective and efficient pass rusher right from the start. I know one of the things that came up in the draft, you know, he only started this past year, but he played behind a four-year starter for us, a kid named Parker Hesse, who's with the Titans now. And the other side was Anthony Nelson, who's playing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we used him on pass rush situations his first 2 years. He was extremely productive. And this year was his first year as a full-time player and did a great job. So I think the Bills have gotten a steal, me personally. I mean, this guy's a really good football player.
Coach, Kirk Ferentz is with us talking about the Bills' first pick in the draft, A.J. Epenesa. I read one analysis that said, as far as defense, he might have been the best run defender of this year's crop of players. Is he strong against a run, Coach?
Yeah, and this is the first year we really had him playing on first downs, you know, regularly. And he's just a really good football player. I think it's kind of an interesting, and I'm just an outsider looking in, although I did spend 6 years in the NFL. And Steve, you might agree with this. I can tell you, I think in my personal opinion, there have been a lot of bad decisions that have been affected or impacted by the combine both ways. You know, guys that really do good at the combine, and, you know, when it comes time to play, they're not as good. And A.J. didn't have a great 40 time at the combine. We didn't expect that, but I think he would have run better in our pro day, which unfortunately got canceled. But the way I'd put it in perspective, we played somebody last year, I won't name the team or the player, who was a defensive end. And, you know, he had a really good combine last year. He ended up being a first-rounder. I think he was like 20, 22, somewhere in there. But he had a really good 40 time. But we played that team during the season. And it's one of those deals where when we played him, a bowl game, he played up against a guy who was a...
He was very highly touted. And I asked Greg Cosell, one of our analysts, about him. And really the only thing that he doesn't do well is come off the edge with speed. He's a big body guy. I don't know that there's many guys 6'5", 265 or 275 who do come off with real great power and speed. But he does show great strength and great technique. And tell me about this. One of the things I read is that he plays with a high motor, with a great deal of effort. Is that true?
Yeah. He can go. Yeah, I mean, he really goes. And the last guy we had like him was Adrian Claiborne, who was first round at the Falcons years ago, or Tampa Bay, actually, years ago. But anyway, the thing about A.J., I don't, 5'5" flat's not reflective, but he's not a 4'6". I'm not suggesting that. But he can, you know, turn in on you and just run you right back to the quarterback and make you look really bad. So for an offensive tackle to have to respect that and then respect the fact that, you know, he can get around you quick, that makes it really tough for an offensive tackle. If you can just set and play a guy's speed, that's one thing. But if a guy can mix speed and power, that's a whole different deal. And A.J. can do that, and he can do it. You know, he just transitions really well. It's not like a mechanical, robotic guy. He's just a really fluid pass rusher.
Live on the line with Iowa head coach Kirk Ferentz talking about the Bills' first pick, A.J. Epenesa, out of the University of Iowa. Coach, Epenesa, is he a defensive end, a tackle? Can he work both in and outside? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's one of the beauties about him. I think he can do either one and do it effectively. So, you know, I'll leave it up to the Bills to decide what's best for them and within their scheme and with the personnel they have. But, yeah, I think he's got the potential to do both. And he's a willing guy, great attitude. And I talked to everybody I talked to during the draft process. The one thing I wanted to emphasize is you're going to love having him in your meeting rooms, whether it's a team meeting, position meeting, or just in your building. He's the kind of guy you want to have on your football team. And, when you get a guy who's a really good player and has those kind of attributes, I think that's just a bonus. And it's hard to have a championship team without those kinds of players. And I know the Bills are working hard to build that kind of a operation.
I want to ask you about one guy went last night, actually, from your program to Tampa Bay. Tristan Wirfs goes to Tampa Bay. You got to be pleased with that. And you got two guys now from basically your line, one on offense, one on defense, going to the NFL. That's a good sign, right?
It is, and it was a lot of fun watching those guys. Those guys practice against each other, and it made them both better players. And it's really unusual. It's 2 years in a row now. Last year we had our two tight ends come out. They were both third-year players, and both A.J. and Tristan were. And I really think Tristan would have been the Outland Trophy winner, or at least he would have been right there next year if he'd stayed. And I think A.J. would have been one of the top guys in the country too. So, both great players. And again, they're both just tremendous young people that you like to have on your team. I mean, they're fun to be on the field with, and they'll do whatever you ask. They'll work hard. And I don't see either of them being impacted or affected by being NFL guys. They're going to be, they're football players. They're just football players that are really good kids.
Coach, thanks for this, and thanks for producing up a new Buffalo Bill. We appreciate your contribution to the show today.
Thanks, Coach.
It's going to be fun to watch them, and coincidentally, our defensive line coach, Calvin Bell, is a big Bills guy. So I think that's awesome. And one of my mentors in coaching actually is a guy named Tom Bresnahan who worked for Coach Levy up there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Really well. I know him really well. Kirk, I had the pleasure of sort of the pleasure of watching the Iowa Hawkeyes dismantle the Northwestern's homecoming game this last fall. It's the first home Northwestern game I've been to in 35 years after playing there, and I watched your Hawkeyes just dismantle us. I watched both Wirf and Epenesa play. You had a great team this year. It was a lot of fun to watch, and I congratulate you and wish you the best.
Well, I appreciate that. That's after they beat us 3 straight, so they've done a great job there. I got a lot of respect for Pat and the job they've done there. They do a great job.